Right, so welcome back to the studio. It's a January morning. It's nice and kind of bright outside. Yeah, so I'm just going to crack on where I left off. Pouring off the water from my sumps after it's settled. Now we're gonna top up my tank, all the usual, the first little jobs when we get in the studio. There you can see my water tank with the funnel in. And down here, set this up so you guys can see. And this is it. This is how I recycle my water. I mean, you can see it's pretty clean. I mean, obviously you wouldn't drink it. It's full of all sorts of stuff, chemicals from the clay, but clean enough for me. So yeah, the clay trap system works quite well. Right, so some technical issues there, but we're back. I'm filling up my tank. A little bit of a faff, but I do it first thing in the morning. I don't have to worry about it after that. Great, that's that done. Put the cork back in. Cool, so where were we? I cast these little pots the other day. I'm just going to turn them out. There's some nice little colour samples. Let's get a nice board out. To live on. So, just being cautious here. Keep them in colour order. Try not to warp them at all. So put them down. So we're going darkest to lightest here. Okay, lovely. So I will mark these up with exactly what colours they are. I'm just going to let them firm up a little bit before I do that. But I'll keep a note anyway. Right hand side, left hand side, C 2% downwards. Okay. Right. So just in case I forget what I've done, I've got that ready up there. And I'll just sit there and firm up a little bit. Just come give these moulds a little bit of loving. Now, because I left these moulds in a damp box over, not yesterday but the evening before, they're still quite wet, so before I can use them, I'm going to want to dry them out a little bit. So I'll put them in my drying cupboard, sort of homemade drying cupboard. And yeah, I'll do something else for a while these are drying. If your moulds are damp, they don't absorb water in the same way as they would when they're nice and dry, and you don't get nice casts, or the pieces can get stuck in the moulds and blah blah blah. So it's good to try and get them dry in between. It also just means your moulds last longer if you look after them and don't let them damp all the time. I've had these moulds for years, and the surface quality isn't as great as it used to be, but they're fine. They do the job for me little samples. Yeah, I made these, when will I have made these? In 2017 or 18. So getting on 5 years now. Really should have made some more, but doing the job. And the reason I'm not just wiping these with a wet sponge to clean them up is because I don't want to get them any more damp than they already are. But I have got a sponge here to make sure it's really well wrung out. Excuse me. big boys can come over to the drying cupboard. So here it is, my drying cupboard. I've got this little fan heater which gets switched on. My radiator is also purposefully next to my moulds. We don't want the moulds really to be getting damp if we can avoid it, and plaster actually absorbs water so well it will absorb moisture out of the air. And in a room like this, it's not properly heated and blah blah blah. It's just thin plasterboard walls. It's quite important to try and mitigate against having damp, soggy moulds. I'll turn my fan heater on. Bring my flap down. And that won't be on for ages. It's not terribly efficient, but it's the best I can do with the space that I've got. So, yeah. While those moulds are drying off, before I cast my next colour samples, I'm going to mix up my final few colours. Yeah, I ended up having to wait for a few colours because I ran out of nice fresh casting slips, so I had to reclaim a bucket and balance it and get it back to nice, almost sort of fresh out the factory state, just to finish off the last ones. So I need to do 3 more portions of clay, but it might weigh it might be a little bit different in weight to these portions that I have already prepared, so I'm going to have to measure the quantity that I need, weigh that, and then calculate the portion of stain I need, or calculate the weight by percentage of stain that I need for the samples. So I'm going to do that now. Let's have a look. What do we need? We need a little jug. Nice little jug here. And we need 200 millilitres to fill these moulds, which is that little line there. So I'm going to measure 200 millilitres of clay, weigh it, calculate the amount of stain that I need. So let's get started. This is the clay that I've balanced up. I need to give it a good mix. Give it a sieve. Weighing it, measuring out the portions. Actually, I'm going to swap sieves. This one's a bit broken. Okay. Yeah, so having rebalanced this, I can kind of tell from mixing it and pouring it through the sieve and watching the speed that it pours through the sieve. How good the slip's going to be for casting. If anything, it's a touch on the thick side. But to make colour samples, you have to add water, excess water. So that's okay. It being ever so slightly thick. The drips. It's good. A little bit tacky, but it's okay. Lovely. Okay. So I'm happy this has been pretty thoroughly mixed. This thing. Maybe so. Okay. So now, because I'm trying to be very precise here, I'm going to decant some of the slip from the bucket, now I know it's nicely mixed, into a jug, which will be easier to pour. It's heavy. Okay. Keeping it on my line. Pretty close. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so we'll check the weight. 2, 4, 3. Okay, so it's slightly heavier than the other slip I used. That's all right. It's fine, as long as we adjust the amount of stain we use for the heavier clay, we've got no problem. So, correct this. Now in theory, I've measured my slip. I can just weigh the slips straight into the container and I should have exactly the same amount. Keep an eye on the scales, just go nice and slowly. It's okay, perfect. You'll be pleased to hear that while these are not takeaway containers I've collected from lots of takeaways, I bought these specifically so they're nice and clean. I do reuse them, of course. Every time I'm doing colour samples I wash the old ones and put them in the dishwasher and then reuse them. Like a snake's example of plastic can be, provided it's reused properly, can be a really useful material. Give it a turn. back in. Okay, that's our portions of clay measured out. So we can get all this slip back into its home. Cool. So the washing up bit. Oddly satisfying. My neighbour out in his garden. If you can see him over the wall. He's got a beautiful garden. Amazing greenhouse. Oh, these guys are coming for a little while. So yeah, feeling a bit more dry. I'm going to turn this off. Shit. Oh, there you go. Technical error for you. I think I'm going to turn this off now. That still feels quite warm in there. It'll dry off a bit more. Are we ready to cast? Right, so washing up. bit chilly, this water. The room's not heated when I'm not in it, so tank gets a bit cold, but that's okay. Next thing is to weigh up some stain, mix it into my samples, and then I can get casting the rest of my colour samples, and that will be that until they're ready to be fired. See you later.